Welcome to another episode of the Moore Center Community Spotlight. I'm your host, Teresa Dinesi. One of the great things about the Moore Center is the wide variety of people they support in all age groups. Today we're going to learn more about the programs through Early Intervention Services, which targets children from birth to age 3. And we're very pleased to welcome Diane Bolduc from the Moore Center. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Wonderful. You're the Regional Director of Family Supports and Services?
Family-centered early supports and services, known everywhere in the world as early intervention. The program here has an unusual name because we value family input, and families requested this be the name of the program.
Wonderful. So, Diane, what exactly is early intervention, and why is it so important?
Sure. Early intervention grows from the concept that if children have developmental delays or they have other conditions that could cause developmental delays, the earlier we get in there and work with the child and their parents, the greater difference we can make. So much of a child's brain develops between birth and 3, birth and 5, that if we waited till children were eligible for school-age services, we would lose a lot of opportunity to make that impact that we can make when we get in there while the development is happening.
I see. Do staff go to people's homes, or do the folks come to you with their children?
Great question. Unlike most programs, we are actually we serve children in natural environments. That can mean the family's home. It can mean the child care center. It could mean meeting at the library or the play area at the mall. We go where other children go. So we don't see them in clinic settings typically. There are rare occasions when we'll see a child at the office, sometimes for evaluation. Once in a while, if the family situation doesn't allow for a small amount of time for them to have people in their home, they're living with relatives and they don't feel comfortable. There's lots of reasons that could happen. So basically, we work with what's best for the family. Mm-hmm. And so while there are some guidelines and rules, we flex to be responsive to what the family wants and needs.
I see. Can you talk a little bit about the different positions of staff that might be involved in the early intervention process?
Sure. So we start with intake, and we have 2 people who provide intake services, Beth and Kathleen. They do a great job of getting the background information and giving the family some good, solid information about the program. Then if the family's interested, they go on to an evaluation phase where we have 2 staff members from different perspectives or different backgrounds. So we might have an educator and a movement therapist, an OT or a PT, work together to do the evaluation. If the child is eligible, then they're assigned a primary therapist and service coordinator. And our therapists, our providers, I should say providers because they're not all therapists, include physical therapy, occupational therapists, speech-language pathologists, therapists, educators, early childhood educators, and folks called early intervention specialists, which is a very specific certification here in New Hampshire that means that the person has trained across all of those aspects of child development and is ready to work with a family to help them with their child's development.
It's quite a myriad of people working together to sort of help these children and families.
There are some other specialties that we can have. We don't happen to have right now in terms of our direct provider staff. I, for instance, am a licensed mental health counselor, and so I bring that perspective and provide that consultation to the team when they want it.
Wonderful. I'm curious, how do these families find the Moore Center? How does that first link kind of take place?
So many of our families are referred by their medical provider, whether it's their pediatrician or their family practice doctor. Some families are referred immediately and directly out of the hospital where the child is born. Parents can self-refer. We've had grandparents make referrals. Child care centers can refer. They usually will talk to the parent before they make the referral for their own reasons, but they can make the referral. Any of those are legitimate referrals. If we get the referral from the parent, then we just start the process. If we get the referral from anyone else, including the pediatrician, we immediately try to reach the family by phone and send a letter within 24 hours saying, hi, this is who we are, you've been referred, and we'd like to talk to you about whether we can be of help to your family.
So some children are born with a medical issue, but others might develop something as time goes on.
Correct.
So is there an opportunity if a parent had a question about their child's development, they could contact the Moore Center directly?
They can. So children are eligible based on several different categories. If there is a 33% delay in development, or if the child has a medical condition that has or is very likely to result in developmental delays later in life, we'd rather intervene before the delays start so that we can help avoid them. If a parent has a question, they could call and talk to Beth Warner, our intake manager, at 206-2732, and she could either redirect the family to their pediatrician if their questions are specific and detailed and not something we could answer at that stage, or she could do an intake with that family and start the process.
Wonderful. As much as your team supports the children in this process, I imagine a key component is also working with the families and sort of offering support. Can you talk a little bit about that process and what the Moore Center offers for those folks?
Absolutely. In point of fact, that's one of the things that makes early intervention different than outpatient medical model services. We're actually, in some ways, more of an educational program than a medical program, even though some of our providers are medically trained. So our focus is two things: family-centered, three things: family-centered, trans-disciplinary, and parent coaching. So family-centered, we've talked about. We go where the family is or where they're most comfortable. Trans-disciplinary means that no matter what background the provider has that's assigned to the child and family, they work with all the knowledge of the team. So they are always in consultation with people in other specialties. And they can invite somebody out for an actual hands-on face-to-face consultation, or they can simply do that consultation. Transdisciplinary also means that, say the child's major issue is a speech delay, but while the provider is working with the child, they notice that they're sitting in an unusual way, or they're holding their head differently than we expect at a certain stage of development. They can be working with language activities while also playing a physical game with the child that will encourage or direct the child's physical development.
That's fascinating, how it's all sort of intertwined.
Right. Well, human beings are all intertwined, and most especially children are very intertwined. They don't just think or they don't just run. They're doing all those things at once. And so we work in a way that can work with all those things at once.
That's great.
And then transdisciplinary, parent coaching. We believe that the best therapist, the best teacher for the child from birth to 3 is the parent or the child care provider or whoever the guardian is, the people who are with the child all day, all evening, because we can say, well, doing this activity with the child will help. But if, for instance, repetitive songs help with child language development and social development, doing that while you're changing the diaper 25 times, it feels like a day, but at least a week, is something that a parent can work into their routine and make a difference every time they're interacting with the child. Playing games, verbal and physical, the old open the hanger, here comes the airplane that our grandmothers and our mothers maybe did with us, or maybe with me because I'm older, is an example of how you can integrate those developmental activities into an everyday, 3 times or more a day activity with a child.
So you're providing those sort of opportunities to teach the provider as well, the caregiver.
Our goal is always to teach the families, and sometimes that includes siblings. If there's older siblings, and they don't have to be a lot older, a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old can be a part of
with play therapy
with
or
play.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wonderful.
They're the best playmates.
Absolutely.
And play is how children learn.
Wonderful. Are you hiring any positions currently in your department?
We do. We have 2 openings, and because of the way we hire, they're not for a specific specialty. We are looking for any one of those people that I mentioned. 2. We have 2 openings for a physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist, early childhood educator, or early intervention specialist, or mental health professional, anybody licensed by the Board of Mental Health Practice. because we like to have a well-rounded team and we want to have the best person. So we're not as concerned about which specialty we get as that we get somebody who is excited and ready to work with children and families in the way that we do.
And how would they contact the Moore Center if someone is looking to maybe perhaps apply for a position?
They could go to the Moore Center's website, which is www.moorecenter.org, and go to the Human Resources page of the website. Or they could call Amy Natale, who is our program director, and her email is amy.natale@moorecenter.org, moorecenter.org.
Well, Diane Bolduc, thank you so much for shedding the light on such an important subject. We really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me and for giving us some opportunities to have more people know about what we do.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Teresa Dinese. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. The Moore Center is a nonprofit statewide organization with a legacy of serving others for over 60 years. We provide compassionate, high-quality, cost-effective services to people of all ages, from early intervention services for children, to programs and services for adults with developmental disabilities, to home care services for seniors wishing to remain independent in their own homes. We also provide training for the human services workforce. To learn more about this award-winning nonprofit organization and its rich history of creating opportunities for a good life, please visit us at moorecenter.org.